Where are you today? You look like you're in much better weather situation than I am here in Western New York.
The backdrop. I'm in Portland, Oregon.
Oh,
Not
okay.
this the studio. It's a big old weird warehouse here.
Wow, that is
Yeah,
absolute. That is really cool.
yeah. Getting less cool every day. I got sick of tripping over uh, weird shit that I was like, oh, it's an electronic horse, or
Yeah.
whatever. So I've been trying to simplify. You know.
Yeah. Well, I tell you, I was speaking with a guy today. It turns out a guy that literally just started working with me. My day gig is as a teacher, and he was just hired as an administrator. So it's my boss. So you help me out here because it turns out that he's a huge Modest Mouse fan. He's got the meet and greet package for him and his son when you come to Lewiston. So when I told him I was
Didn't
interviewing
ask for
you
that
today,
raise.
well,
You live in Lewiston, Montana?
Lewiston, New York. It's
Okay, okay. You
yeah.
said that. I was like, there's a town named Lewiston, which I've met three people from in Montana, and I think there's three people there. So I was like, if I just met the fourth fucking person, that's crazy. But never mind.
That would be crazy. I don't think I've met anybody from Lewiston, Montana, so you're two up on me, but I know
I
lots of
can
people from
introduce you to all of them.
Lewiston, New York. Fantastic. So, well, I guess I'll just start by saying thank you very much. I really appreciate it. You've had an incredible career. Man, I was reading something the other day as I was doing some interview prep, and you've been kicking around for like 30 years. I mean, do you kind of do you pinch yourself in terms of just the longevity of the band? Because 30 years, I mean, you figure like the Beatles lasted 8 years, CCR, some of these classic bands just didn't kick around that long. I mean, how's it feel to be around this long?
I mean, let, let's be honest. I mean, in the Beatles' 7-year career, I've gone 8 years without putting out a record. So I've had gaps in putting out records that are fucking longer than the Beatles' career, which is, um, I seriously wish I'd never said that out loud to myself. Is that true? What an asshole. Anyways, yeah. I don't know, man. It it's all just a liquid. Everything kind of blurs together a little bit, you know.
Yeah, and obviously you made good time of the shutdown with the pandemic and everything. So you did manage to put out a new album and all that. I mean, I know everybody asks about, oh, you had the downtime, you were able to record and all this and everything, but how is it impacting your live show? I mean, when you go back out on the road, I mean, what do you think is going to be different after not being able to tour to the extent that you did for so many years before everything was kind of shut down?
I mean, we for basically the amount of time that we couldn't play, we worked on that record, and then after we put it out, we went on tour. It was like right after shit kind of opened up, and so we did a whole tour, and now we're going back at it like we used to, which is it's daunting. I mean, we're kind of looking like we're out on tour basically till the end of the year, and then
Yeah.
I think we start up again at the beginning of the year or something like that. So it's what's going to be different? I, I don't know. Uh, I wish I had a better answer for you, sir.
I mean, I would imagine again, it's like you said, you're looking at the schedule, and it's on some level, it's got to be daunting. I think that probably is the answer. It's got to be scary to go from 0 to 65. I think the entire world's experiencing that.
Well, I mean, I'm doing a lot of when I look at the calendar, it's like touring's a given. I know it, I love it, but then I'm like, okay, when do I get to see my kids? Like like looking at those windows too and shit. And that's a lot of not seeing my kids. Anyways,
Yeah, and it's funny. The gentleman I mentioned to you, his name's Tom as well, and he was telling me that, and I said to him, I said, "What should I ask this guy? I mean, you're a big fan," and that seems to be the common theme is that everybody said that fatherhood has changed you. It sounds like we've already kind of broached that subject a little bit. So, does the idea of going out on the road, is it different now because of your role as a dad?
um, that's there's a two-part answer to that. It can't and doesn't really change affect what touring is on things, like
Right.
uh as much as I've toyed with the idea of bringing my kids out on tour, it's a terrible idea for them and things, like, uh, and so tour is what it always has been, which is, a new town every day that like, uh, what am I trying to say here? No, I don't think it's going to change how tour is. It just makes time off more important to me.
I mean, have you
I got
scheduled more time off because of trying to get home, or is it just
absolutely not. No,
yeah?
it's a pretty thick tour, and I got spoiled. I got spoiled during the pandemic's not over. It's not, it's still happening, but during the lockdown, so to speak, because I got to spend mostly all that time with my kids, except for when I was at the studio. Um, so yeah. I guess I don't have much more to say about that. Hold on a second, okay?
Oh yeah, sure.
You needed water, didn't you? I needed 20 gallons of water.
That almost looks like a Guinness.
It almost is. All right. Sorry for the pause here.
Oh, no problem at all. No problem at all.
All right. Um, yeah, I mean, I don't know that uh, fatherhood makes any differences in what actual tour and playing shows is like. I think uh, says the guy who just opened a Guinness. I've gotten more responsible as with having done enough shows where where I either got too loose or whatever, and it backfired. So like now I I have regiments. I do all this weird shit that to make sure that the shows are good. On one being, I don't drink until 20 fucking minutes before the show, and it's a specific set of like 2 shots and 1 cider, and then that's the night. You know, just enough that uh, I might forget something, which keeps me on my toes, and I like that.
I mean, your shows. I mean, you're playing different set every night and everything. I mean, isn't that sort of the one of the appeals of a live Modest Mouse show is that it is a bit unpredictable,
I hope
and
so.
that sort of keeps the audience on their toes as much as it keeps the band on their toes.
That's been the game we've been playing, and it's been great, whatnot. And I think we're actually getting better at it and whatnot, which is great. Like, oh, how to answer that? I don't want to sound too braggy, dude.
Well, there's no reason not to sound braggy. I mean, you've again, you put together a great career. As we mentioned the longevity. I mean, you've got a Grammy, so there's validation even in the industry.
I don't have a
So,
Grammy.
yeah.
I'm a 3-time Grammy nominee loser.
Oh, I apologize. I thought you were. I guess that's right because it says Grammy nominated. But you know what? You know how many Grammys I've had been nominated for? None. So you're still 3 up on me.
Uh,
It's still quite an honor and a validation within the
I
industry.
nominate you for a Grammy.
Well, now I have 1, but you're still 2 ahead of me. So you owe me 2 more.
Yeah, um, I gave myself an award after we lost the 3rd one. It's a middle-aged, overweight Superman that an artist, Chris Weaver, his Acme Novelty Library comic had this guy, and he's like got his head facing his hands and things. I was just like, no, those things, like, I just don't really give a shit. It's like it's not winning a prize for a contest you didn't know you joined. you know,
Right.
like, yeah.
But I mean, you must have a pretty special relationship with your fans again, because you're not, you are a band that is unique, and said your shows are each one of your shows are unique. I mean, what is that kind of relationship that you have with your fans? Is it a
I,
weird one? Is it a good one? Is it
no, I like, I did an, like a Twitter AMA thing, uh, earlier today, and it was just fans got on, we talked, and you know what? I
yeah.
really like the people who, are, are showing up to our shows and things. Like I genuinely tend to like them and things. I enjoy conversing with them and stuff. So, um, we're we're something that people specifically do, like, get a personal attachment to, and
Hmm.
obviously, like, people who don't relate with me don't fucking show up. So there's that. Um, so yeah, I have a tendency to like the people who, uh, are coming to the shows. I enjoy talking to them.
I often wonder, and I ask a lot of people this question because it's one I'm just fascinated by. So, obviously you've gotten to the point now where you have a fan base. Like you said, you have these events where fans ask you questions and things like that, and you meet them in the course of concerts, maybe at hotel rooms or any of that stuff. Was
We
there
don't. We
who
don't. We
who
don't stay
who
in
was your
hotels.
who was your Modest Mouse when you were growing up? I mean, what was the band that you were like, man, I can't wait to meet these guys, or I really just want to be part of this fan community?
Oh, I mean, like, for me, the people that I wanted to meet, because I was into, like, music that had audiences of a few hundred people and shit, and so it was fairly attainable to meet the people. That I like. I met Doug Marsh from, Built to Spill, when he was in a band called the Tree People, which I fucking loved. When I was 14, I was wearing a top hat and had, like, keyholes on my shoes, or what the fuck ever. I was 14. He's, uh, you know, and he's just, standing there after he played in the bar like everyone else. It was an all ages club, but he had a drink, at that point. Uh, and just through, meeting, got to meet him. I've met, uh, Charles or Frank Black, and, like, I've I've gotten to develop relationships with the people that I really, looked up to, growing up. So those are two, and, uh, you know, yeah.
I like a couple of bands. One of the bands that I noticed when I was looking at your influences, I guess, which I know sometimes it's very subjective, and maybe they're not even your influences. A couple were Talking Heads, and the other one was XTC. I mean, I'm a big Todd Rundgren fan. As you can probably see, there's a whole bunch of Todd Rundgren memorabilia
Right.
behind me. That Skylark album was a pretty incredible album, and I think of the song "Dear God," and I think in many ways that's a song
I know the
that
XTC song you're talking about. I do like that song. I was never, like, a huge XTC fan, but I put some time in, and that's one of my favorite songs of theirs. Is, the Dear God one.
well, and I think from a thematic standpoint, I mean, you definitely have addressed different. People say, I go, well, this guy's an atheist or whatever, and I think you grew up with a very Christian background, if I read correctly. So those themes kind of permeate your music a little bit in terms of questioning religion and things like that. So
I'm not sure where I stand with things in the universe and stuff. Uh, I think there's a lot of shit we can't see and stuff, but I don't know that it's God. You know, um, I think that there's a lot going on, and, like, one of my favorite lines that kind of sums it up, is a Drone's line. It says, and it's, "What do fish know about water?" Um, and that's kind of where I stand at this moment.
does that mean, do those kind of thoughts really influence your writing in terms of your songs?
Absolutely. I mean, like, I, everyone's sort of chasing answers and
Oh
things.
yeah, 100%.
I don't, I don't expect to get them, uh, but it's not going to stop me from asking them.
Yeah, and I know you have a song. It's I believe "Fuck Your Acid Trip" or something like that. It's
Right?
And that's I mean, I've only taken LSD once, and I know I probably shouldn't show this video to my boss, but it you know, in terms of like seeking and looking for things, that's a drug that really can do one or the other. I mean, it can kind of mess up your mind a little bit or open it up. So was that song kind of really a testament to the negative experience that a particular drug has on an individual that may be a deep thinker?
That song is super simple, and it's about ending up somewhere where someone else was on a ride and you were their ride and shit. You know, the being stuck with people on an acid trip, and you happen to be the one who gave them a ride home, or stuck around in the fucking woods with them.
Yeah, I mean, I guess if you're the only guy that's not doing it, or you're with somebody that is, and you're not, it's probably a little bit on the difficult side to handle. Absolutely. Is there any song, just out of curiosity, is there any song of yours that you could point to that you would say this is easily the most misinterpreted song that I've ever written?
No, because I don't really I don't really ask people how they interpret shit. You know? Like it's I leave people alone with their interpretations, because that's, you know, that's kind of what music's good for. It's it shows up and you get to project yourself into that song in a way that makes sense to you, and it doesn't have to be the same thing as what made sense to me, you know?
That's a great answer. I agree with you 100%. And I mean, that really does kind of capture, again, the individual music experience. I think there's been so many songs, again, people spend all their life analyzing, but at the end of the day, it doesn't matter, because what it means to you is what it means to you.
Right. Like, I mean, I broke one of my cardinal rules, which is not to explain a song when you asked about Fuck Your Acid Trip, whatnot, which is because I don't want to ruin it for anyone. If it's, you know, like, and that's one of the more clear cut, this is just this songs that I've,
right.
But, you know, when I have talked to people and they try, you know, people do want to know if what they think is going on is what I thought was going on, and I just skirt around the shit, man. I don't. Yeah, I guess I answered that.
Yeah, and I think you're right. I think it's important not to ruin a fan's experience in terms of a song. You know, maybe it means something very sentimental to them, and at the end of the day, like you said with "Fuck Your Acid Trip," it was just kind of a thing that happened, and I guess that's a song that sort of came easily based on that particular experience.
There it is.
Well, I've got to ask you about, I don't know how much time we have. I got to ask you about Lace Your Shoes, because I'm a dad. I'm actually now a grandfather, which I want to let you know that if you think fatherhood's great, you got a real treat coming up the road, because grandfatherhood is just pretty darn amazing.
Right.
You know, but as a dad, you know, I read these lyrics, and again, it was recommended to me also by my boss. This is really just a beautiful song. And I think, as a guy who maybe is known for, you know, some stuff that maybe seem more cynical or realistic, or however you want to look at it in terms of approach to songwriting, this is really a tender song. I mean, do you remember writing it? Like, at what point this sort of came to you?
It was sort of a subconscious obstacle when we were working on the record. You know, we had a bunch of tracks with music, but not like every song I kept trying to write about my kids. And finally I was just like, the only way I'm going to be able to write the rest of this record is if I just go straight, you know, head first into sappy gushing about being a dad, and just get it the fuck out of the way. And it worked. I mean, I you know, like, I just wrote the most earnest song I could about loving my kids and such, and then was able to move on to the rest of the record without that having to be the theme of every freaking song, you know?
I mean, I would assume at some point you're going to be writing other songs about your kids as well, as they hit more milestones and things like that. Have you even thought about that, or do you just? except that it's maybe a reality that's just going to happen down the road.
Why won't you talk to me? Why would what are you doing in there?
We get to go see your children grow up slowly.
I don't
through
like
song.
your friend. Just talking to my kids through songs they don't want to hear.
Oh, that sounds like a great title for an album. Oh my goodness.
Clean up your shit. Yeah, I don't know. Yeah, I was about to divulge personal shit that I think I'm going to keep to myself.
Okay, no problem. But as I said, I think it's again from a dad standpoint, I think it's a pretty darn cool song. I mean, how old are your kids now?
I've got 3.
Okay.
I've got a 2, a 4, and a 20-year-old.
Oh wow.
Yeah. And they're all great, says the dad.
As a dad should. I mean, that's part of the deal. Of course, you got to tell them sometimes when they're being knuckleheads, but ultimately to the world, obviously they're your pride and joy. So that's pretty cool. So I assume your 20-year-old has seen you perform, and then the 2 and 4-year-old maybe not yet.
He worked on part of the last tour, like until he had to go. He's in college for things that are so smart I can't even name them.
Oh, that's awesome.
But yeah, he's gone on tour with us before as working, and everyone loves having him around. So it's that was nice to get to do. And yeah,
I've got 3 sons, and I play music with all of them every opportunity that I have, and it's just an absolutely beautiful experience. My youngest, I mean, my kids are a lot older. I've got one 27, 32, and 37, so hence the grandchildren. But yeah, I don't know. I don't think there's any better experience in the world than just playing some tunes with your kids. But I know sometimes kids don't pick up instruments or whatever, and that's fine too, but it's just nice to have them a part of your life, especially when they get to be like 20, when you said that sometimes that's an age where they could just sort of drift off into their own thing and you just don't see them for a while.
Yeah, I know. My son plays music, and we played music a bit. We had a band that we joke started, I don't know, when he was like 14, and I asked him what we were going to name it. He was like, Daddy's Boy. It was like super fucking hilarious. But yeah, I think he probably plays music more than I do now and stuff.
Well, that's cool. So what I mean, preparations for the tour, maybe just some practical questions. I mean, how many people are you going to have on stage? What's the expectation for the fans this particular tour?
It's 6 people, which is kind of the minimum we can operate with to accomplish some of the songs. I mean, some of them only need 3 of us, but as each record's moved on, we've kind of gotten it a little more complicated. So people are still having to juggle different jobs, like pick up a horn, pick up a guitar, walk over to another thing. So I'm very fortunate to play with people who are good at so many instruments, because otherwise this would be undoable. But
yeah, I mean, you guys started out just as a 3-piece, right? I mean, it was so you definitely, I suppose when you're limited.
Actually,
what's that?
It started out as a 2-piece. Really, it was just Jeremiah and I, and then we added. I think at that point I was playing bass. We started out as Jeremy and I, and then Eric came and we were both playing bass. So it was 2 basses and a drummer. And then at some point, decided one of us should play guitar. So I borrowed a guitar from someone.
Oh, wow. Well, that's cool. I mean, do you have, I mean, when you're writing new material and when you're recording them, do you ever think about the live aspect of it, or are you just going in the studio and doing what you got to do?
I sort of like, when I'm working on songs, I'm like, there's no fucking way I can do this live. This is, like there's collaging and on computers and like weird fucking, like almost non-instrument approaches to instruments, or like, what am I going to, how are we going to possibly, uh, let's say, have a garbage can full of bottles that we smash up and down until they're crushed. So the sound
Yeah.
gets crushier and crushier and crushier, which is the sound that we use. But like, I'm not going to fucking do that every night on stage because it's a lot of glass. But,
There's a lot of glass.
but we've got this percussionist, Benny, who can basically solve any problem like that. He's one of the best I think the world's ever fucking seen. Like, there's drummers and there's percussionists, and they're not the same thing. And he's phenomenal at just playing in the cracks and adding the right shit. He's Benny Massarola. He used to be in a band called Red Red Meat, and then Caliphone. I think he was in Iron and Wine for a while. Um, Various other things, but yeah, he's a special type of musician. He's been working with us since, oh Jesus Christ, what's that record called? Moon in Antarctica.
Oh,
Um, and things like, one of the things he did on that was just get bundles and bundles of drumsticks. You know, yeah.
that's,
Uh,
I mean, that's got to be cool to know that somebody can kind of recreate something that you've created originally, especially band member.
yeah. Well, I mean, some of it he created originally and things. He
Yeah.
really does. So
All right, I'm going to throw you a softball question for the final one, because this is a piece for the Niagara Gazette, which is near Niagara Falls, New York. And of course,
right.
Niagara Falls is a very iconic tourist trap. And I always like to ask all the musicians coming through the area if they ever visited when they were a kid. I mean, I know you were on the other coast out in Washington near Seattle, but any Niagara Falls memories? And do you plan to stop and take in the falls when you come out here for the show in Lewiston?
You threw me a hard ball, dude. Uh,
Did I really?
yeah. So my last time of going over the Niagara Falls was over. So on some level, the Canadian side has the view, and we've got the property. You know,
Right.
and
Yes.
things. So I was like, we're standing on that side, and it was really foggy, like, or like there's a lot of mist coming off the falls, and it was hard to see. And I was like, let's go to the other side of the falls. I was on tour with a side project of mine called Ugly Casanova. And this is a long time ago. It was like 2004. Um, and so we go over to the Canadian side, look at the waterfall for 10 minutes, go to the fudge shop, which I don't fucking like fudge, but I had to buy something because, uh, that felt like the right thing to do. And so we buy fudge and get to the border crossing, and they're asking like the simple, like, what you do in Canada. I was like, look at the falls. You buy anything? And I go, fudge. And the way I said it, even to me, sounded like fuck you, sort of like the fudge equivalent of fuck you. And I was just like, ugh. But they type in my stuff. And they're like, "Would you pull over here?" I'm like, oh, "Okay, well, I've got nothing to worry about. Fuck it." Here, like, there's nothing illegal in the car. Nothing, like, uh, this will be quick. Uh, Fast forward a few minutes when the local police are coming to pick me up because apparently I had a warrant. Um, so I had a warrant because, like, in 2003, or a little prior to that, I'd gotten my one and only DUI, and I hired an attorney who didn't do a fucking thing. He was supposed to, like, make sure that the court, like, date was set and all that shit and things, and he didn't. He just cashed the check, and that was literally it. Just like, oh, I'm done. Um, and so apparently there was a warrant for my arrest, and I was considered a fugitive. Um, and the charges were kind of heavier looking than they were. Like, they were throwing the book at me. Simultaneously, while this is going on, the DA in that neck of the woods had kind of put down an order that any underling DA, whichever underling DA got the least amount of convictions, got sacked. And so they were willing. They had said, like, when they arrested me, they checked with the Oregon police to see if they were willing to extradite me. And they're like, yes, we are. Which for a
Wow.
DUI, no state is going to fucking pay to like transport a prisoner across the country for a fucking DUI. Like, anyways. So I got held for something like 20 some days in Niagara County Jail before.
Wow, that's incredible. Niagara County, New York.
I might, yeah, Niagara County jail. So I think I spent 2 weeks there. And eventually I just had to hire a new lawyer to deal with it. But they kept, being like, oh no, they wanted to imagine that maybe they'd extradite me, but they weren't ever going to do it. And they could only hold me for 30 days. So I was like, God, don't make me be here 30 days. Anyways, yeah, I've been to the other, I've been,
I never in a million years would have imagined that for an answer. So that was incredible. I mean, are you okay if I print like some of the highlights of that?
Yeah, go for it.
Yeah, that's crazy.
I think it's public record.
I've heard stories. I mean, living close to the border, even pre 9/11, it was not as big of a deal, but post 9/11, they got really crazy about a lot of stuff. But that's an incredible story. It's funny now, probably because you have enough years past it, but man, at the time, it must have really, really given you a pretty sour taste in terms of the area.
No, I get to having a good sense of humor about shit pretty quick. Whatnot.
Yeah, well, that sounds great. Well, I appreciate your time. It looks like we're about 30 minutes, which is just perfect for me, and really looking forward to your show coming out in Lewiston and everything like that. And this has been a lot of fun. I've really enjoyed our conversation. Hopefully you did as well.
Likewise. You take care, man.
You too, man. Thank you so much.